All right, so this morning, and I guess it's a good thing, I was going to do something a little different because, an elder has come to me and asked for permission to address a congregation, preach, whatever you want to call it. Okay, not preaching, okay. But, and as an elder, I thought, well, I'll let that happen. As a preacher, I go throughout all the week and I worry, about what to say, what to pray about, and, how's it going to be received. And one of my downfalls, I know, is, well, how are they going to react to this, or how are they going to react to that? And I hear God say a lot of times, just say it. And so I wonder, I worry about that stuff. And so, this elder come up to me, is Michael, and asked to address the church. I'm not sure what, but I thought, well, this ain't my church. It is. I attend here. This ain't mine. This is God's. And I'm not one to say that the preacher is to have an iron rule and this, that, and the other. So when he asked, I said, okay. And so at this time, I will let Michael.
Well, like I said, I'm not a preacher. Don't want to be a preacher. Hopefully I'm never called to be a preacher. A couple of things, or actually just one thing, happened to me about a month ago. And it was, everybody knows that I go to field trials. I've got beagles, I've got tons of them, go to field trials all the time. Didn't get to go to one this last week, but I enjoy them a whole lot. And going to a field trial, I have to go to my dad's because he likes to go. So on the way there, and everybody sees them. Everybody sees these people on the side of the road, whether they're homeless, whether they're, just out there just to make a buck. We don't know. And I tell you, I'll be honest, I was one of those people that anytime I would see these people, I would think, what are they doing with my money? And I rarely ever gave them any money. And then Dennis had a sermon, I can't remember how long it was ago, or we might have just been talking about it. And he put it to me, it's not up to me what that person does with the money. It's up to me to give that money. So I started doing that. Every time I would see these people on the side of the road, I would stop and give them something. And saw this particular guy. I was going through Lebanon, and nice gentleman, older gentleman, pulled up to the stop sign where he was at. And so I reached in my wallet and I grabbed two $1 bills. And I gave it to this guy, and you thought I'd give him $1 million. And the next comment that come out of my mouth without me realizing it was, I wish I could do more. And then I got thinking on down the road, $2. $2. I spend more $2 stopping and getting a Coke or, just anything. You waste $2. And so the whole time that I'm driving to my dad's, it's weighing on my heart, thinking to myself, what kind of person am I to really sit there and say, I did as much as I could. So I actually called Dennis that day and I said, I feel, I feel embarrassed. I feel ashamed that I did that, and I said, I feel like I need to talk about it. And of course, at this time, it was right around when we had revival. I thought about speaking at revival, and then I thought, well, no, there were so many good testimonies, and I didn't want to take away from that. So then I started thinking to myself, what have I done for God lately? Anybody ever heard that old song, what have you done for me lately? I was thinking to myself, what have I done for Him lately? And then I started thinking, what has He done for me? And then I started really looking, and it's hard, and I'm sure everybody's the same way. It's hard to really pinpoint all the things that God does for us every single day. So I tried to come up with a couple. Me and Robin have something in common. Robin had an aneurysm. I had an aneurysm. I was 8 years old. And this was 40 years ago, so there wasn't as much ability to do anything with them at the time. But I was 8. I had an aneurysm on the cerebral cortex of my brain. There was constant headaches, you can just imagine as 8 years old, constant headaches, seizures, anything that you could think of that could happen to an 8-year-old boy was happening to me. Went into the hospital several times. One actual stint in the hospital, I was there for a year at Chicago Memorial. The only person that was with me that entire year was my mother. They had come to my mom and dad and said, we've done everything that we can do. There's no way to operate. If we do operate, there's like an 85% chance he'll be paralyzed from the neck down. It's just 40 years ago, it just wasn't foreseen that they could do anything like that. So they basically told Mom and Daddy that, I had, 6 months to live. That's all. There was nothing else they could do. So in those 6 months, things happened where I went into a coma. Before that, I was paralyzed on the right side. But when I went into the coma, they pretty well come to Mom and Daddy and said he's got probably 48 hours. I mean, there's just not really anything we can do. Came out of the coma, and believe me when I say this, I don't have a recollection of it. I really don't. A lot of that stuff I don't remember, and it's good. So I go by what my mom and dad told me. But my mom said when I came out of the coma, the first thing I said was, Grandpa told me to tell you hi. Never met the man. He died before I was even born. I told my mom that I was in a garden, sitting on a bench with Grandpa, and I was happy. I felt great. But he had told me that, I needed to come back and take care of my mom because she needed me. So come out of the coma. And it gives me chills. I don't know if it gives you chills, but it gives me chills. Come out of the coma. 2 weeks later, I walked out of the hospital. No aneurysm, completely gone, no trace of it, they had told Mama and Daddy that I would always struggle to learn, I would never be able to walk. They're wrong. So there's a particular time that, God reached into my life and, took care of me. Another time, my mother, I'm a mama's boy. I always have been, always will be. Talking to Mama on the phone one day, busy, couldn't really talk to her, basically blew her off. Said, Mama, I'm too busy, I can't talk to you now. Got home that afternoon. got a call. They had rushed Mama to the hospital. She just collapsed on the floor. So me and Elizabeth went to Owensboro Hospital. I made it there in probably 30 minutes from here. I mean, extremely fast. I got there, talked to the doctors. They said that she was dead when she hit the floor. She had had a stroke. So basically she was brain dead at the time when I got to the hospital. Of course, my dad's a complete mess. My brother and sister's not much help. So another time that, God was in my life, he, as close as I was to my mother, he, gave me a strength that I just didn't worry about anything. I was constantly, trying to take care of what Daddy needed. After we, took her off life support, setting up the funeral, doing all that, I did all that. Never shed a tear, never got upset, just constantly just doing what I needed to do. And I believe at that time that was God again saying, I'm here for you. I'll take care of it. Another time, I was married for 12 years to a lady that I joke around all the time that wasn't a very nice person. And my two boys were my life. That's all I ever cared about. So when it happened that we were not going to be married again, it was a big struggle for me. And I just felt like, my life was never going to be the same. I was never going to be able to turn around from it. She kept the kids away from me, wouldn't let me see them, different things like that. I'm a very passive person. I didn't, think about taking her to court or doing anything like that. I just wasn't made that way. The next time that I felt like God was in my life is when he put my wife, Elizabeth, in my life at the time. She's the one that told me that I needed to stand up to my ex-wife and do the things that I needed to do to be able to see my kids. And for the first time, except for the time that I accepted Jesus Christ as my Savior, I actually felt love from a person other than my parents when I met Elizabeth. So again, God's in my life. And I think, I think back to that guy on the side of the road, and I'm thinking, all the things that God's done for me, what have I done for him? If we look at Matthew 25, 31 through 46, and I really looked at this and really thought about it a whole lot. It says, when the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, then he will sit on his glorious throne, and all the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate them from one another as the shepherds separate the sheep from the goats. He will put the sheep on his right and the goats on his left. Then the king will say to those on his right, come, you who are blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. Naked, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you visited me. I was in prison, and you came to me. Then the righteous will answer him, saying, Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty, or give you drink? And when did we see you a stranger and invite you in, or naked and clothe you? And when did we see you sick or in prison and come to you? And the king will answer and say to them, truly I say to you, to the extent that you did it to the one of these brothers of mine, even in the least of them, you did it to me. Then he will also say to those on his left, depart from me, accursed ones, into the eternal fire, which has prepared for the devil and his angels. For I was hungry, and you gave me nothing to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me nothing to drink. I was a stranger, and you did not invite me in. Naked, and you did not clothe me. Sick and in prison, and you did not visit me. And I'll just stop there. So the only thing everything that Jesus Christ has done for me or done for us personally, the only thing that he's ever asked from us is to walk in his footsteps, what he done while he was here. That's all he's ever asked us to do. So we've started a new committee this year in this church, the missions committee. And somehow, some way, I got to be chairman of this committee. I still haven't figured that out. But we've had several meetings. We've talked about different things that we wanted to do in the church for the less fortunate, for the people that, in this particular county that might not have anything to eat, might not have a place to sleep. And we've talked about several things that we wanted to do as a church. And one of the things that I brought up in the meeting is that the people that's on the committee, we can't be the only ones that do this. We can't be the only ones that come up with the ideas, come up with the footwork or the labor to get some of these things done. We need to do it as a church. We need to help the less fortunate. And a lot of times when we're helping the less fortunate, it might be something as simple as food or just visiting somebody that's sick. And a lot of times it unfortunately has to do with money. It has to do with the fact that we have to reach out as a church. And first and foremost is we need to bring people to Christ. But a lot of times when we do that, when we have the ability to bring people to Christ, we have to meet their physical needs first. We have to show the love of Christ. We have to be the ones that show and have the hand out there that's going to be able to say that, we're here to help you. We don't know you from Adam, but we want to help. And we do it because we want to show the love of Christ. So a lot of the things that we had, or a lot of things that we've been up against, some of the people that I've talked to in the church, I guess there's no easy way to say it. It's just people don't want to do anything. They don't want to, or they feel like we do enough. Or they're not sure that they can do anything. And then I started searching, trying to find a verse, some way that would help people with that, and I'm not even sure if this is a correct thing, but it made me feel better. It's 1 Chronicles 28:20. It says, David also said to Solomon his son, be strong and courageous and do the work. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord God, my God, is with you. He will not fail you or forsake you until all the work for the service of the temple of the Lord is finished. Now, my translation to that is, that he was building the temple, but we as a church sometimes we need to start our own temple. We need to be there for the less fortunate, the ones that need our help. And I'll be honest, I was one of those people that I figured everybody would take care of themselves. I took care of myself. Everybody, they'll take care of themselves. But that's not what we're put here for. We're put here to bring the love of Christ to every person, every individual we come in contact with. And just meeting that stranger on the side of the road, and me reaching in the back of my pocket and giving him $2 was embarrassing to me. And I think that, as a church, if we will really get involved with this missions committee and really start trying to do some things, really look at maybe, we've talked about starting a food bank. We've talked about, making meals for people that are shut-ins. If we will really step forward and really make an effort, and not just a few people, but everybody, I truly, truly believe, just like it says in this verse, that God will make it happen. It's not up to us. We can't do it as individuals. We can't even do it as a church, but He can. So I'm pretty well done. I want to leave you with a few things. One of my favorite quotes, that when I'm thinking that I really don't want to do anything for anybody, or I just want to take care of myself, it's a quote by Mother Teresa. And it says, "Christ has no body but yours, no hands, no feet on earth but yours. Yours are the eyes with which He looks compassion on this world. Yours are the feet with which He walks to do good. Yours are the hands in which He blesses all the world. Yours are the hands, yours are the feet, yours are the eyes, yours are His body. Christ has no body now but yours. So what are you going to do to take care of yours?" That's all I got.
So as this week, as I was doing my own study, and one thing that I saw, and it kind of hit in my mind because I didn't know what Michael was going to say, but I had a feeling. And what I saw, if you look at the whole Bible, from Genesis to Revelation, what you see is a call to action. It is a call to action from the followers of the Old Testament, Yahweh, to live a holy life, to follow the commandments. It's a call to action in the New Testament of followers of Jesus Christ to be Christ in the world, the hands and the feet. One verse I kept thinking of is Philippians 3:14. "I press towards the mark of the prize of the high calling of Jesus Christ." We are not just called to be saved. And what I think one of the problems with Christianity today is that when people receive that call and answer that call to be saved, they stop. I mean, that's it. But if you look at Paul and how he's talking, he said, "I press towards the mark," because it's a continual calling. It's something that he has to continue to follow. I'm just going to be honest with you. There's times that I get into a spot, a funk, so to speak, and I feel as if, I just am not doing what God has called me to do. And it's because I've gotten lazy, or it's because I've gotten complacent. And I feel that in my life. And Paul, if you look at what he's talking about, he says, "I press on towards the mark, towards the calling." It's a continual calling. It's a continual movement in a certain direction towards the calling of what God has us to do. What God has us to do as an individual, what God has us to do as a church. And so, we look at the Bible as a call to action. And when you wake up in the morning, that's a call to action. Lamentation says that His mercies are new every morning. The things that He does for us, allowing us to wake up. And even, I understand that when people get older, they can, really say it's a blessing to wake up this morning. I understand that, because when I wake up, and I know of people that I went to school with that are no longer with us, and I wake up and I say, "Lord, just thank You for this day." And I know that God will give me the opportunity to respond to His love in some shape, form, or fashion, and to carry that love to someone else. And so this morning, as Cleet and Cheryl come up, we're going to have an invitation. And I just want you to think on some things about what you can do more, because there always is more you can do. I'm not one that you look at and just saying doing one thing is enough. it's not just enough that I bring home a paycheck to my family. They need more than that from me. The world needs more than that from Christians. It's more than just giving them money, or more than just being able to see the steeple on the church down the road. So he needs the church, the people in it, to be the church. Let's stand and sing.